Hello everyone, I'm Daniel. I'm here with SuperFang99. We have reached the finale of the Circle Undone. I'm so excited to talk about this one before the Black Throne. It is an iconic scenario. Everyone remembers this one once you've gotten to it because it's so crazy and hard. Shall
Indeed, and it's also crazy hard.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into it. We did the interlude last time, right?
Yep,
So we have some things from the interlude that are interesting because setup talks about them.
correct. Yeah, we have a bit of a story. We're going through space and we're reaching Azathoth's throne and we got to go kill it or something. I don't think we could kill it. Um all right, we're going to go through setup. The setup is actually fairly straightforward. We're going to be doing some location setup with these locations. The first one being the cosmic ingress. We kind of put it over here, and then we construct this deck of cosmos locations. And one of the cosmos locations, which is I think this is the one, yeah, the hideous palace.
Hmm.
We're gonna get that and a random one from the deck, and then randomly put it either here or there. And our initial goal for our first act is to get to the hideous palace, and we don't know which one it is. Um, and we'll have to figure out how to get there.
What's all this stuff?
Yeah, so this is empty space. So in this particular scenario, the locations are set up in like a grid so that you have adjacent locations connected to each other. Or actually, 10, oh yeah, they are. And you initially put in empty space between these locations to signify that you'll need to put in locations there first before you can move on. And the way that the game instructs you to do so is by turning over player cards, I believe from the lead investigator's deck or just whoever's turn it is, basically.
Yeah, at first the lead investigator, then it's the active investigator.
Right. And it's just used as filler space, as in there are no locations there, but it's used to space locations out.
Which is kind of interesting. Like, I want to mention this pretty early that it does not mean that the spaces that are not player cards cannot be filled with locations later. Like, you are
Right.
able to go outside that grid.
Correct.
The FAQ makes that clear. I think a lot of people miss that because it's not obvious, but yeah.
Yep. Totally. All right. The other main thing that is going to happen is, as you mentioned, during the interlude, we recorded tally marks next to the number of paths winding before us. And for each of those tally marks, we're going to add a resource to the scenario reference card. We currently don't have a way to do anything with that, but I'm sure we'll figure out something.
Oop, let's say we had like maybe three or four.
Neat. Nice. And with that, we can begin. The main thing of this scenario is on the act card. And other than this big guy, we'll get to him in a second. On the act card, there's an action to spend X clues, and you draw that many cards from the Cosmos deck, and you put one of them into play using its Cosmos instructions. That is just a distinction, just to say it either is put like to the right of where you are, or above where you are, or like the above the bottommost location of wherever you are, but whatever. It's basically a similar like a revelation effect that only happens when you do this action.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's how we're going to be getting new locations into play. Should we talk about this guy?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, our main and ancient one for this campaign, of course, it is Azathoth, the Primal Chaos. It is an enemy technically, but it is oblivious and omnipotent. It is immune to all player card effects and investigator actions and cannot be defeated by any means. There's basically no way to interact with this card.
mm-hmm.
And ultimately, there is a forced effect, 10 or more doom on it, and bye-bye. It's
Mm-hmm.
the resolution 1.
R1. R1's usually the good one, right?
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
And it deals 3 damage to 3 horror. I wonder how we're going to get attacked by it.
Yeah. All right. The agenda also has something important relating to Azathoth.
Correct, yeah. Doom from enemies normally gets removed when the agenda advances. In this case, it does not. I wonder what happens to that doom. I guess we'll find out.
All right.
All right. Shall we start at our beginning? Cosmic Ingress. It just refills to 3 clues every round. And it has this extra ability for each void location, which I believe is the it's the front face of the other Cosmos decks,
Mm-hmm.
Cosmos locations. Basically, there's an action to shuffle that location, not Cosmic Ingress, back into the Cosmos, and then everyone moves back to Cosmic Ingress just in case you get stuck or maybe you need to run away from certain things. It's like a
Yeah.
panic button.
Yeah, maybe I've used it once, but it's one of those things where I feel like they're just trying to keep you from breaking the scenario.
Yeah, there's like some use case for it later on in the other parts where maybe it's beneficial to move back to the beginning instead of having to walk all the way back because of how the setup is
Hmm.
happened. So,
Yeah, and the same thing with the adding clues is, just in case.
yep. All right, well, we're gonna get some clues, obviously. Shall we move on? How many Cosmos locations do you want to do for the first one? Do you want to just do it from the top?
Yeah, so one thing to ask is, well, it says you spend X clues. How many clues do you like to spend?
That's a good question. I think I generally spend between 2 and 3. Um, if I'm maybe at the beginning, I really don't care. But if you think about it, it's like each action you want to be as most efficient as possible. So like if you brick on one of the actions where it's like, oh, this is forcing me to go left,
Hmm.
then that kind of sucks. So having the choice of between two is usually the sweet spot for me.
Yeah, let's look at one of them, and then we can talk about that more because they do have Cosmos instructions that may, make you make choices.
Definitely. All right, we got the Dancer's Miss, 3 shroud, 2 clues. The Cosmos instruction is you must either connect it to the right, or you can lose 2 resources to connect it to any location adjacent to your location. So in any direction. Um, so this one's actually pretty nice. Losing that 2 resources to put this in any direction can be pretty good, pretty flexible as well. And it also has a reaction. After you move to Dancer's Mist, you can actually remove a resource from the scenario reference card. Those were the paths winding before us. To move it to a connecting location. It's a free move.
Question. I feel like I'm reading this for the very first time. It says connect to an adjacent location.
That is the location that you're pulling the Cosmos deck from.
Okay. In a direction to your. So why does it say connect to adjacent location? Why doesn't it just connect to your location in a direction of your choice?
I assume because adjacent location means that it would have to be the 4 around you. Because if it just said a direction of your choice, it could be like, oh, we'll do this one to the right, I guess.
But you can't, like, if there was a location, let's say you're here,
Yeah.
and there's another location here, and you pulled this one, you couldn't say I'm connecting to an adjacent location in a direction of my choice.
Correct. Yeah, I think from the Cosmos deck, new location cannot enter play in a position already occupied by a location.
But I mean,
So
like, could you say this is an adjacent location and then connect it in a direction of my choice to the right or to the left of that adjacent location?
huh. Sorry. You must either connect to the right or lose 2 resources and connect to an adjacent location in a direction of your choice. Oh, is that what that means?
Maybe so, because otherwise it would just say connect in a direction of your choice, as the first clause says connect to the right.
Should immediately to the right it is. I have no idea.
I know, I read this, I'm like, wait a minute.
Connect to an adjacent location in a direction of your choice. You've just broken my brain.
I know.
I see what you're saying. So like if this location was already here
Hmm.
and you were coming from here, it would have to be here, here, or here.
Right.
I never thought about it like that.
Have we played this
I
wrong all our lives?
People in the comments, have we been playing this wrong our whole lives? It's genuinely possible.
In other words, you cannot put it down here.
Correct. What the fuck? Okay, what did the other one say?
Right, right. Let's look at another one now.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, so I agree because it's analogous to these ones because those have to connect to like a specific location designated by the topmost revealed location, for example.
Yeah.
Oh god, I think you're right then.
Well,
Anyway, moving on.
yep.
2 shot 1 clue. So this is either above or it's connected to the topmost revealed location in the direction of your choice.
Which usually is, like, in this case, the location we're at is the
Right.
topmost one. So
Exactly. So this one is a free as long as you take 2 horror.
mhm.
Mhm. Okay, and then you can also take when the location is actually out. You can take an action to remove a resource from the scenario reference card, and you can move Flight into Oblivion upwards, and then you swap it with like an empty space or whatever. Um, but basically, this location can move on its own, which is pretty okay. But obviously, takes an action to do that.
Yeah, it's cool if you're like everyone is at the location already and you just like move up the elevator basically.
Exactly. All right, let's see what else is there. The Infinity of Darkness. This one is the analogous one. This one either goes down or you take 2 damage and connect it to the bottommost revealed location, and you can remove a resource to go down.
Mm-hmm.
All right, pretty okay.
So
Ah, the
in
oh,
what
go
we
ahead.
well, let's look at one more and then we'll talk.
Yeah, Pathway into the Void. So this one just goes in direction of your choice, but after you enter it, which by the way, this action on the act also means that you move into the location, so you're going to be forced to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You either discard a card from your hand or take a damage. Ultimately, that's not so bad, but if this is like in a key area where you're moving in a lot, then it can get really annoying.
Yeah, it's bad at
Um,
putting this in the center.
yeah. However, there is another action. You can move it to any adjacent spot. So not up or down. You can go up, down, left, or right.
Yeah.
Neat.
So this is now looking at this map, it's a small map. We're trying to see if this is the right location or if this is the right location. Ideally we like go down the middle, right? And then try to just check either one.
Correct.
But these things are basically telling you maybe you can't do that so easily.
Definitely.
Now,
All right.
now let me answer a question that I asked to you earlier about how many clues I like to spend here. It depends on the player count in my experience. If I am
Interesting.
playing like 2 player and kind of one person can get clues pretty quickly and the other person is going to be needs a little more setup or won't get clues, I would just spend 1 clue because
That's interesting.
the number of actions that it takes to get the clue in the first place, if it's just one action to get 1 clue, then it doesn't really matter where you go. You just have to like keep moving because as we'll talk about when we talk about the encounter deck, it's not just finding the right direction to go, it's also getting away from where you currently were that I think is
That is
important.
true. Yeah, that is true. I think the interesting thing also is because you can't spend them as a group.
Mm-hmm.
So the person getting the clues has to be the one to spend them. So all of the actions are going to be fixed on the cluver, and they have to do this. So
Exactly.
you're right in a sense that there's at a lower player count, there's less ability to do that action if you want to spend more clues at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you have to. So these locations we've looked at don't necessarily have that many clues themselves, right?
Right. Yeah.
Just one, just two here. I think they're almost all fixed numbers.
Yeah.
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 So spending them all may get you to a place where you're like, I have to only spend, the one I got on my flight into Oblivion, and just we'll see where
Right.
it goes.
That is true. I think for me personally, I like to start with 2
Mm-hmm.
because in this first act, if you can nail getting it exactly here, then you can really tempo ahead of the scenario, in my opinion. It is, you're right though, with the other ones, you kind of have to commit. And it's just like at the beginning, you're like, oh, I don't care. Just like take me somewhere.
Yeah,
Um, so,
totally agree. All right,
all right.
let's look at a few more of them.
Yeah, I believe a lot of them are copies, but
Yeah.
this is a new one. It's the Cosmic Gate. 1 shroud, 1 per. You put it. Oh, sorry. Connects to any revealed location in a direction of your choice. So that could be a location you came from, or of course it could be the location that you were currently in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's neat.
And remember that you do go to the location, even if it's like not currently connected to your current location. You get to kind of warp
Correct.
around.
Yep. And as after you enter it, you must either spend a clue or take a horror. And then as an action, you can remove a resource and you move any number of investigators from the gates to any other void location. That's
Ooh,
pretty cool.
wow. Okay.
Notably, the end goal, the Hideous Palace, is not void, so you can't just skip all your way there if someone else has revealed it.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's a repeat. That's a repeat. That's another repeat. 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 There it is.
Yep.
I
We've seen
think
them
this
all.
is just spoiler. This is also another copy of Infinity of Darkness,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore those are all of the locations that you can get.
All right. So again, you can't move through to these other locations unless you've made a nice little line, and you can walk through
Like,
unless you
here, and then
warp around to something connecting. But yeah.
right. So let's say we've done a couple of those. We investigated this one. It's not that one, and we're gonna come back down. We know it's this one, and we're gonna go here to the Hideous Palace. So it has a similar effect as the Cosmic Ingress. It refills until it has 4 clues, and it has the same void location action thing. But once we get there, we need to spend 1 per clues, and make sure that everyone's there. Otherwise, you may be left behind.
Okay. Is this a good time to advance? Probably.
Probably. All right, so we're gonna do some setup. We remove it from the game, and we put the Hideous Palace back over there to the left. Notably, each investigator that is not at the Hideous Palace is going to be left behind and killed. Satch, they're suffocating in space. We also don't actually discard enemies. We shuffle those enemies into the top 5 cards of the encounter deck, so they're going to come back pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to take the Court of the Great Old Ones as our new location objective for Act 2, and we're going to set it up based on how we see it in the campaign guide, which is like this little diamond thing. So I think I'm going to try and click the button and see how that goes.
Okay.
I think I just put some player cards in here, but oh, there we go. Spoilers, they were trench knives. I need to get rid of these as well. Okay, let's see if this happens. Nope. All right, we're doing it manually.
All right.
Blah blah blah. This one. No, it's not that one. This one. Yeah.
While you're doing that, I'm also going to mention that after you do the setup, it tells you to do something really, really unusual for advancing an act. In player order, each investigator draws the top card of the encounter deck.
So mean.
It's really mean, and honestly, it's mean for your sanity because I often forget like where are we in the round phase at this point, because you could do this in the middle of your turn and then you're like drawing counter cards and you're like, oh, back to the investigator phase. Nope. No.
Nope.
You'd still have to draw during Mythos. So
yeah, definitely is not very forgiving, as normally the acts do normal things during your turn, or don't let you draw encounter cards, which is pretty rough.
Yeah, I mean, it's not unusual to spawn enemies or something in a finale, especially. But I think drawing counter cards is a little wild.
Yeah, especially when we talk about the encounter cards, because some of them are absolute haymakers.
And breaking the round sequence, I think, also makes them pretty tough because, as we'll see, there's doom stuff. So being able to react to something that happens when you advance the act is, not always possible.
Right. All right. Well, our new act is set up. We have the Hideous Palace, and we need to go to one of these 3 places to find the Court of the Great Old Ones. This is effectively the same act as the first one. We need to find Cold Great Old Ones, and we need to spend 2 per clues there.
Yep.
And yeah.
Map is a little bigger this time. Obviously, it's a 1 in 3 chance now finding it.
Yep.
And as I said before, you can put locations like here if you want to, but then you're pretty far away from these other ones. So it's not easy to keep moving. Like, you kind of want to go this way first.
Yep.
You're tempted to, but then going the other way is kind of bad too.
That's true. Like, what I like to do is I try to beeline it for this one, and if that doesn't work out, from here you can take either direction.
Yep.
And usually get pretty good in that.
And then try to go backwards.
Yep.
All right. Shall we reveal which one it is? Is it this one?
Let's do it. Is it that one?
Nope. No.
Not that one.
Oh no.
Hey, it's here.
Hey,
same thing. Reveals the 6. Same action as well.
We've seen this art before, right?
We have. It was in the secret name.
The secret name. A not too distant future, it said then.
Yeah. Good catch.
Cool.
All right. We can quickly advance to Act 3 because it'll be the exact same thing, basically. We're going to set up Act 3. So this is gone now, and then this goes here, and then we have some more of these here.
I feel like this is like just half of the scenario is what we're describing right now, which is already pretty tough. Like running around, trying to find the right place, not spending too many clues that you have to then stop and get more, but not wasting your time. This is the last act, by the way. It is a 1 in 4 shot.
Right. We have our 4 locations, and then the last one we need to get to is the Black Throne.
Mhm.
Hey, there you
That's the
go.
name of the scenario.
That is the name of the scenario. Um, all right, that is indeed, as you said, the name of the scenario.
Mhm.
We have to get there and get all the clues off.
Yeah, and
Probably talk about the agendas.
not yet, but before we do uh, the act advancement also draws the top card of the encounter deck. So
Yes.
that happens one more time. All right. Before we talk about the last act, let's see what happens when we advance the agenda. These are pretty
Yes.
short thresholds.
And this is a very big part of why this scenario is so tough. As we said, Doom on the enemies stays as where it is. And at the back of this act, each cultist enemy commits ritual suicide. Very iconic text there.
Mm-hmm.
So you discard each cultist enemy in play and move all Doom from them to Azathoth. To note, the only cultist enemies that are actually in play are the ones from the original cultist set, so Wizard of the Order and the Acolytes. So hopefully you were able to deal with your Acolytes. Wizards of the Order could, in theory, cause this to absolutely balloon and just wipe you out.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you get rid of them.
Since we're talking about it now, they reminder that they spawn on empty locations, and that
Yep.
has to be one of these four or two or whatever happens to be from earlier, or of course Cosmos ones that you pulled out, but they can't spawn in these guys. So
Correct. Empty space is not a location. Nothing can be in them with one exception.
And then if these guys go to a location you can't get to, well, you better
Well,
make a way to get there.
yeah, exactly. All right, and if that's not enough, the lead investigator must search the encounter deck and discard pile for a copy of Demonic Piping and draw it. Hey, the Piper is back. It's one of these cards, of course, and if you get all three of them, then you're going to spawn the Piper of Azathoth, as we've shown. And also, you are drawing it, so it will gain Surge, or it has Surge.
Yep, so you'll be
And,
drawing some other random card as well,
yeah,
and then your Mythos cards afterwards.
yep. And then, it's a little bit of flavor stuff. Basically, if you don't have Gilman's journal, which I think we talked about, it's the one that you get from doing the very first bit of the secret name or something. If you don't have it, then each investigator must either move to the location to their left or move the placement of their location once to the left, and then you can't move more than once. So it's like you're somewhat losing progress since most of the locations you want to go to are on the right, I guess.
I've never done
I don't think
this.
I've ever had this happen.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's
There you go.
the act or agenda 1. So agenda 2.
Yep, we have 6 Doom. And of course, as you remember, Doom from the enemies does not leave play. So all of the Doom that got moved to Azathoth is still there if any Doom did move.
And you can't have 10 there.
Nope. And of course, it does count to the agenda. So like, this is it's bad.
Yep.
It might accelerate the Doom. All right, our second agenda, the same thing happens. So Doom from Cultists moves onto Azathoth. Lead investigator draws Demonic Piping. Then we have another flavor thing. If you don't have the Warned Crucifix, then that's also a thing from Walter Gilman's room apparently. If you don't have it, a Wraith attacks you, and each investigator must test Willpower 4. Failing, you take a damage and a horror, which I guess isn't so bad.
No. This point, if you are drawing Demonic Pipings, you might have a chance of actually summoning the Piper.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah. And we have our final agenda. What happens when we advance this agenda?
The game won't end.
Correct. Oh yeah, it does actually say that.
Yep.
Thank you, game. We can just show it.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, close enemy. You're gonna draw a third Demonic Piping, so the Piper is coming eventually.
And you might get him
back.
No matter
what. Correct.
Yeah.
And then it has this thing. There is no longer an agenda deck, but the scenario is not over until the end of the scenario. Doom that would be placed on the current agenda is instead placed on Azathoth, and then all Doom in play is considered to be on Azathoth. So 10 Doom in play, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, we have this Corn Husk doll, which I legitimately don't remember where that's from.
This is from, I think, The Wages of Sin.
Sounds good. It appears that you curiously, the Circle of Prayer Silence. You can remove a Doom from Azathoth if you have it. That's nice. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all the agendas.
That's all the agendas. So yeah, Azathoth is the agenda now. If you Doom out. And there you go.
Okay. So back to the act. We just need to find the Black Throne and get all. No, the lead investigator has to find the Black Throne, and
Ah,
all of the clues have to be gone.
yes. So I'm gonna call my shot, and
Mhm.
it's gonna be the first one that I pick,
Okay.
like our campaign when it
Yep.
happened.
Yep.
Oh my god!
Ah!
I swear this is not scripted. Wow, nailed it. Anyway, so there's something about its shroud basically getting higher the more doom is that's on Azathoth, half of it. And then the haunted effect on this location is you either put a doom on Azathoth or it attacks you, which is 3 damage or 3 horror. That's bad.
This is the only haunted effect in this scenario, right?
Correct.
Well,
And we just got to get all 2 per clues off.
actually, not
And
that hard.
hopefully not that hard.
Once you get
Until like
here, the shroud isn't. It shouldn't be too bad unless you get here like you're really, really late.
yeah, and you're like if there's like 6 doom on Azathoth, then it's +3 shroud, and you're at 4 shroud, 2 per clues, which again is not even terrible, but
No.
if you fail, that basically accelerates the downfall. So
But if you have like Tesla's clue getting, you're
right,
fine here, right? Like
that's true.
there's nothing that says you can't discover clues through other means. And this is it, honestly. When I first played this with my group, we were like, okay, we're ready to fight the big something that's coming out afterwards, and we're like, oh,
It's over.
that's it.
That's it. Speaking of, yeah, we have some resolutions that we can go over. We can probably talk about those at the when we talk afterwards.
hmm
But there's just some stuff about like if 2 or more are falling, they basically just trying to determine your outcome, whether or not you either accept your fate or reject your fate type deal.
hmm And R4 still is, I think, successful.
Correct.
Cool. Um, yeah, it's actually kind of a simple scenario when we talk about it that way. Let's not talk about the resolutions until we talk about the encounter deck, because that actually
For
is
sure.
much more of a threat, I think, in this scenario.
Yes. The encounter deck is very notable because it is probably one of the most brutal encounter decks in this entire game.
hmm
um, it is brutal indeed. Let's talk about it.
Okay, so the new cards.
Yeah,
There's 3 of these mindless dancers.
correct. And these guys are the only things that can exist in empty space. They have 6 fight, 5 health, 3 evade. It's a monster. It spawns in the farthest empty space, and it has Hunter. And as I said, it can enter empty space as if it were a location. And then whenever it moves to an empty space, it hunts again. So through empty space, it hunts twice as fast.
Yeah, so honestly, like this scenario, maybe like a lot of, like, in my opinion, the toughest part about Arkham at this point in the game's lifespan is enemies that spawn somewhere that is not your location,
Yeah,
especially when they can chase after you twice as fast as you can run away.
correct.
Now,
Yeah, it's really annoying because obviously these guys are kind of you need to deal with them as soon as you can just because they are very tough to deal with and they deal like not a terrible amount of damage, but they deal a substantial amount that they can just kill you.
mhm,
So having them hunt from so far away is like really, really annoying, especially because since you're normally surrounded by empty space, it's almost impossible to move into the location to actually attack them. You have to let them hit you at some point.
right. Now, there's 2 things to note. Like, remember, if you leave them on the board when you advance the act, they will lose any damage tokens on them if you happen to
Yep.
do any, and then they go into the top of the deck. So you will draw them again.
Yep.
And then thing 2 is when they hunt you, there isn't a requirement that they go as close as possible to you through going through empty space, essentially. So let's give an example out here.
Yeah. So let's say you have a location here and here. And let's say you are here.
hmm
Do I have a player token here? Where's Roland? Come here, Roland. Okay, so we got Roland over here.
hmm
This is the classic quick learner presentation slide about where this hunter will move. All right, so where will this hunter move during the hunter's enemies phase of the enemy phase?
It has to go towards Roland, so it could move here or here.
Correct. So it either will move here and stop, or it will go here and then hunter will resolve again and go here and stop. And so the hunter keyword does not take that into account because it can't see the future. And so you can choose if it wants to go here or like this, basically.
hmm So that is a point in your favor to. I don't think it's cheesing. I think it is definitely part of the scenario design.
Yeah,
The more Cosmos locations you have out, the better.
correct.
However, at some point you might need to change directions, and they will just be sitting there or about to attack you anyway. So
Right.
it only does so much, but it is important
Yeah,
to know this if you're not familiar with the way these could work.
definitely.
Yikes. Okay.
Ultimate chaos. So this is similar to Terror in the Night, where you test willpower 4, and the more you fail by, the more the things happen. So if you fail, you attach it to Azathoth. Fail by 2 or more, you also take a damage in horror. If you fail by 3 or more, again surge. And in general, Ultimate Chaos cannot be canceled.
Mm-hmm.
Which, poor Diana.
Poor Diana.
If there are 3 copies of Ultimate Chaos attached to Azathoth, you discard them, and you either put a Doom on Azathoth, or Azathoth attacks each investigator in player order. Also, that can't be canceled for some reason.
So yeah, like a dodge or something, I guess, right?
I guess so.
Mm.
Which is interesting because it doesn't say that the attacks can't be canceled. It just says cannot be canceled, which means that the entire ability can't be canceled, I guess.
I
Sure.
guess.
Yeah.
This is
Anyway.
like okay in my experience with this. It's not as scary as it looks because A, you're probably prepared for willpower at this point,
Yeah.
and you would kind of just want to avoid the surge.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, getting 3 copies, I guess it's kind of bad, but one doom at that point, like in Ancient Evils, like 4 rounds after
Right.
having
In Ancient Evils that required 3 cards to build
right.
isn't that bad.
Yeah. So I think it's okay.
Yep. All right. My goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Whispered Bargain. It has peril. You must either put a Doom on Azathoth or it attacks you. Oh my god. This card, man.
The art, like
Yeah.
two thumbs or something, weird
Yeah,
nail.
Jesus. God, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Um yeah, this card's tough. It has peril. So you better bring your own ward protections. Um
basically.
I think on the surface it doesn't feel like it's terrible, but like when you draw this card, you're like, oh god, what do I do? Because
Mm-hmm.
every Doom on Azathoth, because Doom doesn't get removed from enemies, basically subtracts all Doom thresholds from all of the agendas.
That's right.
And ultimately, the more Doom on Azathoth, the worse everything gets. So do you want to avoid that, or do you want to take 3 damage and 3 horror?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I usually want to take the attack first, but
Yeah.
I might not have all of my assets to soak the damage and horror yet, so it
Yeah.
feels bad to do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're right.
It always comes at a bad time, too.
Mm-hmm. There's only 2 of them. That's good.
That is good. Yeah. I think it's a very iconic card. It definitely is one of the like hardest card in this scenario. So
Mm-hmm. If
um
you're replaying this, at any point, you know this is in the deck, and you're like, okay, what is my plan for this?
yeah, exactly.
Okay, the
All
end
right.
is nigh.
The end is nigh. So you test willpower 1 plus X difficulty, where X is the current agenda number. If there is no agenda in play, oh, how would that be? I like how it spoils it a little bit on this. X is 4. If you fail, you do the effect on the back of the agenda thing. So you move each Doom on each cultist enemy in play to Azathoth. Or, I guess, because why not? If there was no Doom in play, you just put a Doom on Azathoth.
Okay, this one I think is actually the scariest card.
This one is scary, definitely, because it is the back of the agenda thing where you're like, don't expect it. Where you're like, oh, we know that we need to kill them before the agenda, and this thing pops out. We're like, oh god, it's too early.
Mm-hmm. Or someone just drew a cultist, and then now you take the test, and you're like, well,
That's true. I will say it is at least a test, and so like in the middle of the game when it's willpower 3, that's like reasonable to pass,
mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But I agree, it's very very scary as well.
Yeah, the consequences are can be pretty bad.
That's true. Yeah, if like you have at least 2 Doom on cultist enemies, it could just spiral out of control if this goes bad. So
Exactly, and I do like that it plays a doom if there's no cultist enemies in play, so you have there's no easy out here.
yeah,
But yeah,
definitely.
you probably want. Okay, so like theoretically, you could leave a cultist in play without any doom on it, and this is okay.
Thing. Yeah, you're right.
So
You'd have
Wizard of the
to
Order like just
you'd have to
spawned.
get Yeah, you'd have to get the Doom off or like allow one of the agenda flips. No, because they discard them.
They discard themselves.
So you have
So
to get the Doom off manually.
yeah, there'd have
Like
to be some other way to do it. But or like I said, a wizard just spawned and it doesn't get its doom until the end of the Mythos phase.
that's true. Yeah. And that is good because otherwise this would be like really bad.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
All right, last one. World and Darkness. So if there's no Doom on Azathoth, they gain Surge. Okay. However, for each Doom on Azathoth, you must choose one of the 4 options. Um, actually, sorry, I should say, I believe you choose independently for each one. So you can choose the same option more than once, I think.
that's right.
Yeah. So you can, if there's 9 Doom, you can choose to lose 9 resources if you have 9 resources, I guess. Um, yeah,
You can take like 3 or 4 horror if you're Carolyn. You'd be like, sure,
that's true.
no problem.
That's true. No problem.
Discard your cards that are for Wendy or someone.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is fine.
Yep.
Like if you have more than 6 Doom and Azathoth and you draw this card, you have bigger problems.
Right, right. This is like piling on if you're already doing poorly.
Exactly.
But it's not going to cause things to go bad.
Yep.
Okay, we've seen the rest of them, but I think they're worth talking about.
Yeah. So Terror in the Night is a classic. You're gonna take three horrors of it. Yeah. If there's all 3 copies.
I think this
I
one
mean, I don't know.
is like it's another one of these things that stick next to the encounter deck, like the
Yeah.
demonic piping, ultimate chaos.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat that it's here too. The
Yep.
horror is it's fine, but also it's just another willpower test. Like literally everything in this encounter deck.
Everything's willpower. Fate of all fools, man.
Mm-hmm.
This one's terrifying because again, the Doom. I mean, okay, I will say the Doom on Fate of all fools can be okay because at least it's not on an enemy,
Mm-hmm.
so it won't get moved to Azathoth, except at the very end when it's technically on Azathoth, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So that's usually not so bad. I just feel like the 2 direct damage can actually be really bad, just because there's a lot of damage sources coming. The Mindless Dancer is Azathoth's attack.
Yeah, they do
Stuff
2
like that.
damage, which is unusual, I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, the Piper of Azathoth.
how many times have you spawned this guy in the scenario? Ever like 2 or 3 times, or just usually?
I
Just
think
the
I
once?
spawned it twice. I don't know if we killed it 2 times, but we spawned it at least twice, and then just try to run away.
Yep.
I could easily see it happening 3 times though. Like,
Yep.
I can see that for sure.
All right, and then the cultists are here along.
And we also have Ancient Evils.
Along with Ancient Evils, Mysterious
Oh
Chanting.
god.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Ancient Evils in this scenario is really tough.
Yeah. Yep.
The agenda advance is not nice. You already are adding a doom to the agenda, so you're losing time, but you also might be losing time because of a cultist.
Yeah. And also the thresholds of the agendas are actually kind of low. It's 4, 6, and then 8.
Mhm.
So like this actually causing you to advance is like pretty likely
That's true.
sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you pile on the fact that you get the acolytes into the Ancient Evils thing. It's really likely you're going to advance and then put 3 Doom on Azathoth for no reason.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'll mention again with the acolyte and the wizard of the order, you want to get rid of them as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
But yeah, getting to them is tough. But there's some tech I think for them. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, about the empty spaces. They do count as locations for the purposes of how many locations away something is.
I believe you are correct.
So you can use something like get over here.
Oh, interesting. Let's see. Okay, blah blah blah. Just or yes. Let's see. Remind me on the text of get over here.
It's I probably should just look at it, but it's choose an enemy up to 2 locations away. Yeah, it says empty space is not a location, it cannot be entered. It does, however, count as a location for the purposes of determining the distance between 2 locations. So you can use your cosmic scorpion arm and grab a cultist sitting somewhere far away and just.
Oh, I see. So
get rid of them.
specifically, get over here 2. It says up to 2 locations away.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that implied that they had to be connecting, but I don't know.
Maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like that text on the empty space in the guide does mean that, but maybe not.
I mean, I think the reason they say that is for the purposes of like Hunter,
Right.
So that it knows the shortest distance.
But
kind of thing.
It counts as a location, so.
Well, sure.
Well,
Yeah, you want to drag this enemy through the void of space. You come out and you just punch him in the face. Also
But
kind of funny.
I mean, that's my favorite tech. If that, I haven't asked the devs on that one, but I feel like it should work.
Okay,
If not, then even so, getting a location out in between and grabbing them that way is fine, I think.
makes sense. Whew.
All right.
Ultimately, I feel like that scenario is not like complicated. It's
Nope.
just there's a lot of like pressure.
Yeah. So, okay, I guess we've talked about the whole thing now.
Yeah.
Other than let's talk about the tokens. I think that's also part of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Skull.
Uh, skulls -X. Half the doom on Azathoth to a minimum of 2. So there's no zeros at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. So it's not
Uh,
going to get any worse than 4.
that's true. Yeah. Well, I guess it
I
can get to
It
5.
could get to 5 if you have 9 Doom
Yeah,
on. Yeah. Okay.
that's true. Cultists, you reveal another token. If you fail, you search for a cultist enemy and draw it. So it's an extra cultist if you fail. No negative modifiers at least, but
Mm-hmm.
more cultists can be bad.
Yep.
Tablet -2 if you fail. Azathoth attacks you. Holy shit. That sucks so much.
Yep. And the
Yeah.
Elder thing.
Modified skill value for the sets at 0. You put a doom on Azathoth. So make sure that your skill values are always a 5 or more, I guess. If you rejected your fate, at least.
Yeah, so like this is to me one of the reasons why you think about rejecting or accepting your fate. So accept your fate,
That's true.
you get 2 tablets.
Yeah.
You have to be up 2 on everything. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you
Have
die.
to be up 5 on anything.
Um, right. No, for the Elder thing, you only need to be up 4, right?
Uh, no, I'm sorry.
Not
You
You
don't
have to
need
have
to
a
be up 4. You need to be at 4
you
or
need to be
more.
at 4.
Or no, 5 or more, right? Because getting a -4 will drop it to 0
Yes, you're
if you're
right.
4. So
Okay, so
5 or more.
you need to have a skill value of 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Um,
I guess for those willpower 4 tests, you can be up 1.
right. All right. I have a story from my playthrough on the channel for this. I used flashlight on location, reducing a skill
Oh no.
the test value to 0. And I was like, cool. I drew
Cool.
this and I was like, it doesn't say if you fail.
Wow, you succeeded and you still put a doom on Azathoth.
Yep.
Oh man. Wow.
What's on the hard side?
-6.
Ah! The
Ah.
other
Wow.
ones are
No,
almost the same. The
almost
skull
the same.
isn't half, but
Yeah.
the tablet's kind of the same.
No test at 0 archetype for you.
No,
Oh.
it's funny.
All right.
All right, so this scenario, as you say, it's all about the pressure about getting to the right location, getting enough clues as you're getting along, and not dying from any number of things like enemies,
Yeah.
and not advancing the agenda prematurely. So, notably, the thing you're trying to do is a crapshoot.
Yep.
You are just picking. Now, is there something you can? I know we're going to talk about you know, can you mitigate the randomness here a little bit more? But with the map in play, I think it's worth talking about it. Is there anything you can do?
No. I have gotten it where it has been my last one, and that is the reason I've lost. And I'm like, well, that's the scenario. Um, Specifically on the location placement, I think there's really no way to avoid like if it's the last one you check, you're probably fucked.
hmm
At least for the most part. What do you think?
You have to go pretty quick to try to make up for that, and that's hard to pull off. I mean, if you want to win the scenario, you need to. I don't know. That's why I kind of just have. I play like my hair is on fire on this one, and
Yeah,
just spend clues willy nilly and just walk around as much as you can. So things
yeah,
like pocket telescope obviously are going to help you look if you are at a connected location. Getting more stuff out in the center, I think, helps out. Getting lucky with the cosmos effects that let you move around and away from enemies better. I remember I used I mean, the Dancer's Mist helps with the action economy there. Where's the elevator one?
that goes down.
This
But yeah,
one's fine, sure. But like you can be like here, for example, right? And then go down. Like so let's say you, I don't know, somehow came this direction and then you pop here and then you go this way and check this one.
yep,
Instead of spending clues just to put new locations into play. I think that is like what you can do to it's not really mitigating it. It's just like going faster than
yeah.
otherwise.
this scenario is all about tempo because it's very much balanced on this knife edge where if a few things go wrong and you are unlucky, it can like spiral out of control kind
Hmm.
of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and so the real only way to mitigate it is to go as fast as possible.
And I think, unfortunately, in my opinion of it, it's like getting the right one early. Not, I mean, obviously this is the last act, but if you get the
Yeah.
right one right away, you are have basically are on not cruise control, but you have so much uh ability to kind of mess around a little bit in the middle. You're like, okay,
Yep.
I can now set up a little bit so I can absorb more attacks or get clues a little bit faster than I normally would have. And if you don't have that, then so sorry. You have to keep going as fast as you can.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. Like, yeah.
So it's interesting that I don't know. In other scenarios, to sort of combat that like randomness effect, there's something like the museum halls deck, or in the Pallid Mask, the catacombs deck, where it's one of the last three or four in the deck location you're
Mhm.
looking for, but you still have to trudge through some other number of locations. In this one, you can just like get it right away, and you can be very happy.
Yep.
I'm not sure if they could have ever, I mean, with this idea of a map, uh, done something like that, but I do have that kind of criticism here. It's sort of similar also to the concealed mechanic in Scarlet Keys, where you're kind of wasting time. They're just asking you to waste some time, and with no real way of uh, mitigating that. And the benefit you have for guessing correctly is pretty big.
Yeah, I think that at least for Act 1 and 2,
Hmm.
there is some leeway because most of the locations that you know are candidates for the end are kind of on the way to other ones.
That's true.
It's really Act 3 that's like, yeah, if you go down, then you're like, and if it turns out that the real one's at the top, that's like it's so many more actions lost than the other acts,
Hmm.
comparatively, if that makes sense.
So I've not played
Um,
this one with four players, and I haven't played it with three in quite some time. Is there any reason to split up and try to just reveal as many of these as much as possible because you can split up?
I think it's less that it's good to split up, but it's good to like hedge your bets.
Hmm.
Where if you are able to make it to the center, then like a contingent of two people try to barrel through these two, and the other ones can like stay back so that they don't move too far away. But in case that that's the real one, then they like rush to it.
Right.
Um, or if it isn't the real one, then they can start moving upwards instead. That's
Because
kind of the real strat there.
because notably the spending of clues is not by player count. That doesn't
Right.
scale at all.
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't think I've tried this one solo. I don't
Yeah,
know.
me neither.
I don't know what
I
that's
don't know how it
like.
would work. Yeah, I mean that's tough.
Yeah.
You draw less encounter cards
That, well, I mean, you're
in
still
theory.
drawing an extra one for uh
Act and
the
agenda.
active agenda.
Oh
Yeah,
god, I guess
because
that is maximized in true solo
it
then.
is. It is because of the
Wow.
demonic piping, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh god.
Anyway, so yeah, there's obviously a lot of randomness, but uh, that's kind of what they wanted to go for, I think.
For sure. Yep.
You are like hopelessly lost in space, riding around on a Nikon steed, trying to find the Black Throne, and it is a, really scary place.
It is indeed. Shall we talk about the endings?
Let's do it.
Okay. So R2 is if you accepted your fate and you have the mesmerizing flute ritual components, you have to have at least two of those.
Hmm.
You can go to R2. So if that is the case, you have accepted your fate that you are the ones that you specifically, the lead investigator I'm talking to,
Hmm.
um, has to be the one that keeps Azathoth in its slumber. So if you choose R2, then you join the Pipers of Azathoth, Azathoth slumbers, and the lead investigator, which is you, is driven insane. Everyone else though is given some bonus experience as well as some mental trauma, of course, and you win.
Yep.
R3, you reject your fate and you are able to seal Azathoth away for now. And you get some physical trauma for your troubles, but you win regardless as well.
Yep. So these two resolutions do depend on if you accept it or reject it, but not necessarily. You may
Correct.
have the ability to choose the other one as well.
Correct. R4, if you have neither of them, you actually have a choice. You can do what needs to be done. But I think like you take the power for yourself. Am I crazy? Uh,
From the Black Book.
from the Black Book. Yeah, you sign it. You sign it in blood. That's right. That's right. Um, and you can sign the Black Book in blood, and you have Azathoth asleep, and you have more trauma, and you win the campaign? Question mark. Um, but it's still a win. You can also just refuse and then lose,
Yep.
which is amazing. You go to R1, you're like, oh, Azathoth's devoured the universe. Okay, that sounds good.
Which
And
is what happens if you doom out anyway.
correct, yes. So probably don't choose that if you have the choice, but I guess you could if you want. Um, so yeah, those are your three options. You can either join the Pipers, you can actually use your power to stop it, or you sign your Black Book.
Hmm.
Um, and that's the campaign.
Is there an epilogue?
There is indeed. We have a lot of things. That's some notes right there. Um, we actually have a lot of things we can read. So we have some things on if you arrested Annette, arrested Carl Sanford, if you assume control of the Silver Twilight Lodge. It's all very much flavor,
Hmm.
but it's like telling about kind of what's been going on and stuff like that. I think actually Annette escapes. Am I correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Um, and then Sanford's kind of in the jail cell,
Yeah, and if
stuff like
you
that.
assume control of the Silver Twilight Lodge, there's some cool text. If you sign the Black Book, you have a dream.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
And then if you are
Uh,
hunted,
oh God,
yeah.
yeah. You kind of have this out of body experience thing, if I recall.
Hmm. Yep. That's pretty cool. I like all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that is basically all we need to say for stuff on the table. Any other general thoughts?
I think that's pretty much it. As I said, I think the scenario itself isn't complicated in its mechanics. There's just a
Which I
lot of
like.
lot of things, to deal with.
I like that. I think there's just so much on the board to think about and decisions you have to make that it can't be too complicated.
For
It's
sure.
got this one conceit basically, which is cool.
Yep.
So it's to me pretty well designed in that sense. All right, let's go run over to our ratings and we'll talk a little bit more. Alrighty, we like to start talking about this stuff with replayability. How different is each playthrough? Is there more to enjoy on a second, third, or etc. playthrough? Hmm. I I don't think there's much different each time. I think it's just like which locations you end up drawing and that kind of thing. But there isn't like another path to take really.
Yeah, I think that like the variability comes down to your draws from the Cosmos deck, which can vary up where specifically you go, especially in Acts 2s and 3, where you're like, oh, I'm like going up this time and I'm like having to circle around and move stuff around because of like
Hmm.
the time loss that we had.
Yeah.
Um, and it is a nice challenge as well because it is a hard scenario. Obviously, it doesn't reward you for beating more of it, like something like Depths of the Off. Um, but it is a challenge, so it's replayable in that sense because it is hard.
Hmm.
Um, but that being said, as you said, I think it is basically the same scenario each time, the same things going on. The variability is just locations.
Yeah, and that's fine for a finale.
Hmm.
I do note that Forgotten Age did have like a couple different versions of what you're trying to do, and that was cool. I'm gonna give this one like a 2.5.
I'll give it a 3.
Okay. And then we'll just move on to fairness. This kind of goes back to our discussion earlier about what can you do about this scenario? Are you basically at the whims of the encounter card draws?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that as we've talked about, the scenario really incentivizes fast tempo. And it is really one of the only ways that you mitigate the random elements because at a certain point you go fast enough where you have enough time so that it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
That being said, the swinginess of this scenario is a testament to, I guess, quote unquote, unfairness. just because it can either be like, oh, we found the first one immediately, or it's the very last one and we just don't have time for it.
Hmm.
Um, I do think that at least for appropriate pressure, it feels right for a finale scenario since it being so hard.
Yeah.
Um, and so I actually think that ultimately it like falls in the middle when it comes to fairness because of those random elements, but because it's kind of like made for that. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few things you can do, like making choices about where to put your the locations, and try to make it as, in the central area as possible. Or, if you're trying to get away from enemies, don't do that. I think there's interesting choices you can make in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
That said, there's no guarantee that those choices are going to be rewarded.
Right.
So,
Um.
yeah, what are you going to give
Yeah.
it?
Okay. I think with that in mind, I will. I think I'll also give it a 3. I think that falls fairly in the middle for me.
Hmm. I think the return to, which we'll talk about later, shores up some of the issues here without uh really, removing the main conceit of the scenario.
Yeah.
So I like the scenario a lot actually. The the issue that, it's like, how do you solve it's a one of these three locations or four locations, is not something that they wanted to do, and I'm actually okay with that. I'm gonna put it at a 3 as well. I can see that it can feel bad if you just like, I picked the wrong one. Um, so I kind of wish they could have done something about that, but I know that that's what they wanted the campaign to be like, and I guess I can't fault them for that.
Sense.
Pressure is good though. I like playing this kind of Arkham.
Yeah. Balance. I
I,
actually think. Go ahead.
Pretty well balanced, other than the willpower tests everywhere.
That is what I was gonna say. I think that basically everyone's doing a lot.
Hmm.
I will say the one thing that is unbalanced is the fact that you cannot spend the clues as a group. I think that would be like it's a little unfortunate that that is happening. That
Hmm.
being said, the fighters, or I should say the non-cloovers, already do have a lot of things that they need to deal with anyway. So it's not like it's that bad of a thing anyway. So
Yeah. I think there's actually a lot of strategies with dealing with the enemies too. Like, you do need to remove the doom from the cultists. Like, that is
yeah,
bare minimum. You have to do that. But whether or not you evade the mindless dancers, defeat them, throw them in a binder's jar, power word them, there's a few options that are not actually terrible. Like, you don't just need to deal 5 damage to them and
for sure.
succeed.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a
Uh,
4 for me, honestly.
I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
Nice.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. And then the experience, and maybe there's more to talk about here. I think this experience is great.
Yes,
It.
absolutely. I think as the finale, it's probably one of the best finale scenarios of this game in general. Just because it's able to make it really hard, in my opinion, without it feeling too unfair.
Hmm.
Um, like as we talked about, there is a lot of choice when it comes to where the locations go, and you can put them. You basically you take the brunt of the damage of the horror to make it so that locations are the way that they need to be. Um, and so it's kind of like you're forcing yourself into this space, pun intended. Um, and I love the fact that Azathoth is literally just a card there that you just can't interact there, that it accrues doom and it attacks you. It's like really, really cool flavor there. Um, yeah. One of the only times that the Ancient One has literally not been an enemy that you can damage.
Yeah, that's true. But feels like a threat the whole time, unlike maybe
Definitely.
some of the other ones from more recently that have been kind of non-corporeal as well. The gameplay loop, I think, of getting clues, running away, or moving quickly, I think is quite engaging too, because you really are having to decide about what the map should look like.
Agreed.
And I like that. I think that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It is fun. I will give it a 4.5.
Okay. I'm debating. So I've definitely gone through some stretches playing this game where I'm like, this scenario makes me feel angry. And then, like, since I've gotten a little better at the game, and maybe, well, I mean, playing enough where I can shrug off some losses too, but
Yeah.
where I feel like I can do a little bit more or prepare a little bit more for this scenario, I found it to be quite good.
Hmm.
it really, in the experience here, I think is part of it that I really get into the fiction that it's trying to evoke, where you are uh, not in not in Arkham anymore. You know.
Yeah.
All right, so you gave it a four,
4.5.
4.5. I'm gonna just give it a five. I right now, as I'm rating it right now, I really like it. It also
Nice.
does make me feel like super stressed out while playing,
Yeah.
which makes
But that's
the
good. Like
yeah.
it's good for a finale to do that as opposed to like scenario 4, for example.
hmm and yeah, there's a sense of accomplishment that I like in the scenario, even playing on standard, which it doesn't mess around with the encounter deck with all of the draws outside of your turn of the Mythos deck. I mean, I don't like that part, but it does feel appropriate for the theme. Do you like this one? Like overall?
I really do. Yeah. I think it like the Circle Undone is one of those campaigns where there's a lot of scenarios that are like good but not great. I think that if anything, the Circle Undone outdoes itself in its finale that a lot of other campaigns don't really get right, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love Carcosa, for example, as a campaign, but I do think that Jim Carcosa, while it is a good scenario, isn't like the highlight of the campaign. Whereas this definitely can be.
Yeah, it's memorable. I know I've lost it a few times, and well, the very first time we played it, we did miserably, but that
Oh
was
no.
I mean, it was very underpowered decks, and we didn't know what was going
Mm,
on. And then after that, like it, I remember all of those scenarios all the times that I won pretty vividly, and that's kind of what I think the strength of the game is creating beyond the narrative of the scenario itself, but creating um, those moments that you remember, like something really cool happened, like you spawned the Piper of Azathoth, and you needed to deal with them in the middle of space, and how did you do it, right? Did one person
right.
stay behind and fight, and everyone else moved on, or what? Like all that stuff is at its best, I think, in this scenario.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Uh, yeah. Thank you for listening to us for the last 2 months. I don't know.
Gosh.
Okay, anyway, Circle and Done. I think overall we tend to do a little bit of wrap up on the campaign. You mentioned some unevenness, but I think it's a good one. I'm glad that it ends with a few really nice scenarios, really good scenarios that tax your investigator and deck in interesting ways. It gets a reputation as being a really hard campaign, but maybe after playing it once, you can sort of, I don't want to say tech for it, but you sort of understand what it's trying to make you do.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, well, are going to hang on here and talk about the Return to changes, and then that'll be it for us for now. Thank you all for watching.
Bye.
All right, we have the Return to, and there's a bunch of changes at setup that are worth talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe just one big change. I don't know.
Yeah, we got a few couple changes. First thing has to do with an act deck, which is this one. So there's a replacement Act 3 card. Doesn't change the front. However, the back has a new option. If you specifically have Strange Incantation and Bloody Tree Carvings listed under Mementos Discovered, you get to go to R6, which is actually a new resolution. Those mementos are discovered if you're going through, if you went through the Aaron path. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so if you talk to Aaron in the first scenario, you get Strange Incantation, and if you're able to get her in scenario 4, you believe you get the Bloody Tree Carvings.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And but you don't end the campaign early, right?
correct. So
Obviously,
yeah, you
yeah.
eventually, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Uh,
What does that
yeah,
do?
well, yeah, R6. So in this thing, ignore this thing because they eroded it, but this is supposed to be R6. I know it says R5, but
Oh,
ignore that.
okay.
Yeah, I know it was a mistake when it came out, but they've corrected that. I think it's just a scan. It's in a Tabletop Simulator.
Mm.
Basically, you can you learn Annette's incantation and actually it's very similar to one of the other endings, but basically you're able to defeat Azathoth once again and get 5 bonus experience. So yeah,
Why? Why is this here? Why? It's just flavor, I guess, basically.
it is basically flavor. It's not exactly the same thing as like R3 or whatever, or R2 even.
Hmm.
It's like you were able to learn what all of the witches and what Kezia was trying to do or whatever, and
Mm.
so you like learn of their power. So it's kind of like oh, you didn't want to end the campaign early, but you already did the really hard thing, so we're going to give you another option to do this for, kind of thing.
Okay.
It's mostly flavor.
But it's kind of interesting that you don't need to do anything to in this scenario to get that. It's just
Correct.
another option. Okay.
Yep. All right. That is the act change. Then we have 3 new Cosmos locations that we can add into the game. And also, because we should talk about that now, because it kind of goes with them, you can, at the beginning of the game, remove 2 resources from the scenario reference card to have each investigator begin the game with a Night Gaunt Steed story asset. And
Yes.
yeah, this little fellow.
Yes. This is awesome. I
This
think
is awesome.
this is such a good change.
Yeah. So let's read it. So it is an assets, 3 health. While you control Night Gaunt Steed, you may enter empty space as if it were a location. After you do so, you have to take a direct. Sorry, Night Gaunt Steed takes a direct damage, so you can only enter 3 empty space in theory. And when it leaves play, you remove the game and you remove to the nearest revealed location. So it is a way to skip some of the having to put locations out. You can just move directly into empty space. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
this
cool.
is good because if you fall behind, and you're like, well, this is gonna I need to get over to the the location that is across from me. There's empty space in the way. I just need to go.
Yep. Notably, it has to be specifically empty space. So you can't exit like to the actual nothingness
That's
to
true.
the left of you, but you have to enter the ones that had your like player card backs or whatever,
Hmm.
um, which is usually where you need to go anyway.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
And moving to the nearest reveal location when it leaves play is also something you have to pay attention to because you can't just be like for the third damage I move from here
right.
to well not there but from here to here
Yeah, yeah.
because then you'll just go
You
bounce backward. But if someone
exactly.
else went first and
It's true.
revealed where you want to go, that works.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like a Super Mario world where you jump off the Yoshi off the cliff. That's such a weird reference. Um, People in
So
the comments know what I mean.
yeah, so the other way you can like get more uses out of this is the star.
True, it is an asset with health. Um, I think uh what the call for backup,
Call for
you can
backup.
heal a damage from it. God,
One of the
wow.
one of the guys in that art that you can't see in the background of Call for Backup is
It's a
actually another
night
Night
gaunt.
Gaunt.
Oh my god. Call for night gaunt backup. Amazing.
There's a Night Gaunt in I think as a reward or something in Guardians of the Abyss that you get to ride. I think.
Yes. Yes, that is correct. It's either Guardians of the Abyss or no, I think you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it is. That's kind of cool that they give you some monsters to use every now and then.
Yep.
But I think it smooths out the scenario enough, especially if you just have it and you're like, okay, I'll keep it in my back pocket because it won't take damage any other way. I
For
think.
sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And it requires 2 resources from the thing, obviously. But especially in higher player counts, it's definitely worth it to do that. So like do it if you can.
Hmm. Oh, okay. Here's something. You can just assign damage to it.
That is true. It is
So
another 3 health soak.
right. So let's say a mindless dancer is running after you, and someone else has already revealed the Black Throne. You
Oh,
just
if you're in empty space, for example.
no, even if you're just not right. Someone else has gotten there. You're at a connecting location. You just let the dancer attack you, and then you move into the Black Throne.
No, because it's the nearest revealed location. That would be your own location.
Ah, you're right.
You'd have to be in empty
You
space
have
in
to
order to do
be
that.
in empty space, so you still can
Yeah.
get attacked by the
Yeah, yeah.
mindless dancers. Okay.
That's true because they're actually in empty space too. So
Mhm.
it works.
Free move.
Free move. All we need to do for a free move.
Yeah.
Um.
I mean, if you're the
All
lead
right.
investigator, you need to be there, right? Or
That's
if you
true.
need to advance the act and everyone has to be there.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Locations. We got the Nightmare Breach, 5 Shroud, 1 clue. Cosmos. Connect in a direction of your choice, but only onto a spot where an empty space exists. So we can't go into a not empty space, which is so weird to say. So
Hmm.
remove that empty space from the game instead of shuffling it back into its owner's deck. Then discard each other copy of that card from play and from each investigator's hand. So, people who were using substitute cards for the empty space, no, you have to use real cards.
We didn't talk about that. Like, we, what do you think about? Let's step back for a second from this. Like using your own player cards for, it could be up to what? How many of them can you have?
In theory, like 7, I think.
Yeah, 7.
One, two, three,
Okay.
four. Yeah.
What's your take on that? Are you a fan of it? Do you care? Or would you rather use?
Honestly, I think it's hilarious. One time, I was about to draw my last card, and I'm like, "Oh, this got to be where my 4th sled dog is." And no, it's in the empty space. So, yeah. I mean, it's funny. I don't think that, like, a lot of people are like, "Oh no, I want my cards to actually be able to be in my deck," and I understand. Like, they could have, in theory, printed like empty space cards. Um, so
They
I
could
don't know.
just say
I think I'm neutral,
they
basically.
could just say use your 10 copies of knife or flashlight or something.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I don't mean I don't I wish they didn't. And the same thing with the Dream Eaters. I wish they didn't take cards from you, especially this many. If it's just like one for the Vengeance in Shattered Eons,
Right.
that's all right.
Yeah.
But it is sort of annoying, especially since it happens mid act or mid game, basically,
Right.
that you could shuffle in, your copies of, I don't know, Soothing Melody or something, and you're looking for them. You're like, okay, let's, do a search or something, and it's just not there. You're like, well, I guess I don't have access to all my cards this scenario.
That's true.
So when they leave play, they do shuffle back into your deck. So that's at least something. But
Right.
yeah, so the fact that they doubled down on that with this is sort of, eh.
It's kind of funny.
It is funny. Anyway, that's that
Yeah.
one.
All right. We got the Interstellar Abyss 6 Shroud. No clues, though. Connect in the direction nearest to the Black Throne, or any direction if the Black Throne is not in play. While you are at Interstellar Abyss, you cannot spend clues. This one's weird.
Okay. I like the idea, but also, how often is the Black Throne revealed
In
and
play
in
and not
play?
you're not about to end the scenario.
Right.
Good question. I think basically what they're trying to say is that, like, if it's the end, this will get you to the Black Throne, basically, quote unquote, no matter what.
Hmm.
And so you don't have to worry about not being able to spend clues there, I guess. But otherwise,
Okay.
it's one of those where it's like, you better make sure this connects to something, otherwise you're screwed.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And lastly, the Winding Gulf. 2 shroud, 2 clues. Cosmos. Connect to the leftmost revealed location in direction of your choice. Then you must either immediately move to Winding Gulf or place a doom on Azathoth. Haunted, take a damage in a horror. Ah, I understand now. All of these are ones you don't want to draw.
Yeah.
And therefore, it incentivizes you to spend more clues at once.
Yes, so you don't just take whatever pops up. Okay,
Correct.
they learned my strategy and said no.
Basically, yes. I think that's the idea, at least.
Okay, I remember you had a question about this, like why does it say then you must either immediately move there or place a doom? Because the instructions for the Cosmos is always you just move to it,
Good question.
right?
That's a good
I feel
question.
like you asked this question on your playthrough.
Maybe, yeah. I honestly don't remember.
Okay. Right. So you're always supposed to move to it. That says it on the act, right?
Yeah,
So this gives you a choice to not move to it, and you instead take a doom.
correct.
But why would you? Oh, I see. I see. Because it
Because left
connects.
is usually bad.
The leftmost revealed could be way far away, and
Yeah,
you would be
and usually it is your starting location.
right. So you could be warping backwards. Okay. Okay.
Correct.
That's why it does that. So it basically gives you
Yeah,
the option to not move there.
not lose progress.
Okay. Or plays the two.
Correct.
Okay, I think maybe we've solved the mystery from a long time ago
Okay.
with careful reading of the cards and the rules. Not the best language, but I get it now.
Yeah.
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 I think it's just kind of unusual. Maybe worth stating again that there are ways to not just have to walk in a line. You might be forced to warp somewhere else. But it's usually to a revealed location, so it's not going to get you closer to where you want to be.
Yeah,
Hmm. But might help you like if you go the wrong way. That these things might help you like go to the other side of the map, right?
that's true. Yeah, it's like for example, like if you're here, then
Hmm.
if you draw this, it could be connected to this, right?
Right.
Because it's connected to the leftmost in this direction.
Hmm. And in
That's
the
not bad.
bigger maps, like that's okay. Like if you're like going in a, I don't know, if you go down the middle, right, and then go down, then you
Yep.
could maybe warp up a few locations with that.
Yep.
Okay, maybe. Okay. Any other changes?
That is all of the changes, other than of course the return to scenario cards, which we have seen all before.
Hmm.
The main ones being Pitiful Fools, Unavoidable Demise, and then the Impending Evils instead of the Ancient Evils. Luckily, it is nice that you can't actually advance the current agenda when there's no agenda in place. So at the end, this does nothing.
Wow, I didn't think of that.
You have to advance Azathoth. Um,
Flip them over.
yeah,
Okay. So yeah, as usual, I think this is a little kinder than Ancient Evils. Basically, just based on
definitely.
the timing, right? Since the agendas here are so short,
Yeah,
you could advance the current agenda, and it would maybe be exactly the same as Ancient
yeah,
Evils more often
and like
than not.
sometimes it might be even a choice where like we could advance it. It would basically be an one round loss, but maybe we haven't drawn any cultist enemies, so it's like a good time to advance now because we
Hmm.
might draw more later.
Yeah. Do any of the advancement reshuffle the encounter deck?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
No, right? You're just drawing demonic pipings.
Okay.
Yeah,
So yeah, like getting these out of the deck doesn't really matter then.
yeah.
Okay. Well, what are your thoughts overall on the return to?
So this return to is neat. Oh, we forgot the tarot card.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll grab that real quick. Or in fact, actually, why don't you grab it while I talk? Um,
Sure.
so the return to is really neat, specifically for the tarot deck. I think the tarot deck is a really, really cool idea, and it's really, really cool, like design wise, and it is open that it's you can kind of just put it anywhere as well. It doesn't have to be this one campaign,
Hmm.
so it's really cool in that respect. I do think some of the return to scenarios in this campaign could use a little bit more time in the oven. Um, Especially like we were talking about at Death's Doorsteps return to being like, I don't know why this exists.
Yeah.
Um, so that's unfortunate. And also some of the return tos I feel don't really add new things or like too much variety. And you know this there wasn't too much to fix in this campaign. So you know the Dunwich and the Carcosa ones that actually kind of sorry, yeah, Dunwich and like those ones actually kind of fix things. This one doesn't really do that because it didn't really have to, I guess.
Hmm.
Um,
I think the biggest
but
thing
you
is
know,
just about the willpower test, right? So this one
yeah,
has so much willpower in it already, so to dilute it a bit with an agility test, I think is good.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
What's our tarot card?
Wheel of Fortune. Once each act, when any investigator reveals an auto fail token, cancel it, treat it as a zero token instead. There's a
That's pretty good.
good number of acts here, so that's good. And the
Yeah.
and then the other one is once each agenda, the first time any investigator reveals a Elder Sign token, cancel it. It's a -5.
Oof.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's a little sad, but
Yeah.
it's probably not as bad as some of the other ones. I think
No, for sure.
maybe you just don't draw Elder Signs in the first place. Just
Yeah.
seal the
You
Elder
seal
Sign.
it. Like there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like this one. I think the encounter sets, the replacement encounter sets, are some of the strongest in the game.
Yeah.
They're cool. They're interesting. Um, I like playing the return too. I like playing the original one also. I don't think it's a strict improvement as you say. It's just a little different, kind of in the same boat as Return to the Forgotten Age. However,
So
I do think that this scenario I might want to just play with the Nikon Steeds regardless.
that's true. Yeah.
I mean, it's a cost, right? You're not using was it two of the scenario reference card resources?
Right.
I don't think it breaks anything if you use it in the original.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Well, we have completed our fifth campaign.
Fifth. Correct. We did talk about Night of the Zealot.
Yeah. All right. It's a good one. I'm glad that we got to review this one together since we did play it.
Yep.
A little shout out again if you haven't seen our playthrough. I know we basically spoil all of it now, but go ahead and watch it on Superfang's channel. I'll link it in the description below. And you also played Return 2 on your channel. I have not yet on mine. I will at some point. I don't know what I'm going to do for that one, but I did play this on my own as well on my channel, and I think it's a good campaign. Honestly, a lot of people give it, some negative marks for some of the stuff, I think, but once you get the hang of it, I think it's a good campaign. So if you've played it a long time ago and it's a never again, go play it again with the new card pool as well.
Agreed.
Okay, that's it. See you later.
Bye bye.